In this video tutorial, we're going to take a rapid-fire look at one of the very best tools that's out there that makes it easier for people to create games. In today's schools, one of the most popular tools and resources that's out there is this website, code.org, which helps students and teachers learn about computer science and programming and things like that. And it's really good. I've tried this, I've used it with my own kids, and it is a great resource. But you are limited a bit in what you can actually create and then in your ability to share it with others. So if you're using code.org, that's awesome. But if you or your students would like to extend what you're doing and be able to actually share your creations with other people, in other words, if you want to create real software, this is a tool that you should look into. It's called Fusion, and more specifically, Clickteam Fusion. You can find it at clickteam.com, and there they have several creation tools or developing tools or coding tools. And the one I'm going to show you today is Clickteam Fusion 2.5. Now notice that there are 3 different versions of it available right now. They have the developer version, which is what I'm going to be using to show you, but everything that I show you today is also applicable to the regular standard version, Clickteam Fusion 2.5. And now they also have a completely free version of Clickteam Fusion 2.5. But regardless of which of these 3 versions of the software you have or you're interested in getting, what I show you today will be applicable. Now, if you're a teacher or a student, chances are you're going to want to start with this free edition. And so you can click on here to get more information about it. There's some details here about it, and there is the button to click to download it. You could also go here on the right side where it says Education, and you could choose Fusion in Education, and it gives you a nice comparison between some of the different versions of Clickteam Fusion 2.5. Now, the key limitation and the reason why some people upgrade and pay the $25 a station is this. When you or your students are done making a game or some other software with Fusion 2.5 free, notice that they won't be able to export it in any way except for HTML5. Now, in some ways, that's the most useful, that's the most important, because once they export it as an HTML5, it's ready to be put out on the internet and can then be played by other people around the world. So that's what you get for free. If you do want to pay, you get other export options. You can export it for Windows, you can export it for HTML5. And if you buy the exporters, there's individual exporters that give you the ability to save on Mac or Android, iOS, or XNA. Okay, so you can pay for those separately if you're interested. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in to Clickteam Fusion. This is what it looks like once it's open. And I'm going to show you how to create a fairly simple platform game. Now, I have created dozens of games like this one, but I've also created lots of other variations, lots of different genres of games. You're not limited to just one style or genre of game with Multimedia Fusion, and that's what I love about it. All right, so you can see here I have a welcome screen. I'm just going to X out of that to get it put away. And let's look now at the first step you need to take to get started making your own platform game, in this case, in Clickteam Fusion 2.5. Now, I may call this Multimedia Fusion from time to time. That used to be the name of it, Multimedia Fusion, but the most recent version is just Clickteam Fusion 2.5. All right, so the first thing we need to do is create a project. And to do that, you can go here in the upper left and you can just click this symbol here, or you could go File, New. Either way, it should open up a screen that looks like this. So this is Application 1. And I'm going to maximize that just by clicking this button here. It'll fill the space that's allotted to it. All right, so what am I looking at here? What are we seeing? This is level 1 of my game. Now, in most cases, if you think about a typical game, the first thing that you see is not really level 1. It's a welcome screen. So eventually, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put some welcome text on here, and I'll put the name of the game and stuff like that. But for now, I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to move on to screen 2. And this is going to be my actual level 1. All right? So here, notice it says title, and it's good practice to click on that and to put in the name of the screen. It's just helpful if you do that. Next up, I need to decide the resolution, the frame size, basically, of this level or frame. And by default, it's showing 640 by 480. And I would actually like to change that up. So I'm going to click here on the monitor symbol, click on it, and you can see there's some standard sizes there. You can also click on the numbers and type in exactly the dimensions that you would like. But I'm just going to go with 800 by 600. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go back and change the first frame to 800 by 600 as well. Okay, so now I want to edit this level 1 and actually start building my game. To do this, there's a couple of ways you could do it. You could just double click here on the little thumbnail of the frame. If I double click on that, it'll jump me inside that frame and I'll be able to start working on it. But there's also a more standardized method of getting into this frame. And that is you would select it, and then up at the top of the screen, you can see this toolbar. There are 5 different buttons across the top, and these are very important buttons, especially the first 3. These represent the different views that are going to be important and necessary as I build my game. So this first button, you'll notice nothing happened. The reason why is because its purpose is to take me back to this level. And this is what they call the storyboard editor view. It's a big top level view where you can see, okay, there's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3. This is how big it is. This is the transition to get us to level 1. This is the transition out of level 1. So these are big picture concepts, big picture decisions that I'm making here in the storyboard editor. This second button is grayed out. I can't use it. I can't do anything with it unless I select one of the frames. So I'm going to select this second frame, click that button. This is the frame editor button, and now it's clickable. I click on it and it jumps me inside, and you can see now I'm ready to start editing that level 1 of my game, which is frame number 2. Now, jumping back to the storyboard editor, I could have just double clicked. It would have done the same thing, but I want you to see those 3 buttons. They're going to be very important. We'll look at the third button a little bit later on. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's start developing and designing level 1 of the game. Now, the first thing we need to do in developing this is we need to make some decisions about what percentage, what part of this frame is going to be visible at any time during this level while the gamer is playing the game. You'll notice that there are really 2 rectangles here. There's the bigger rectangle and then the smaller one. And you can see the outline using these dashed lines. You can see where the dimensions of those rectangles are. The bigger rectangle, that is the frame itself. The smaller rectangle is what's going to be visible at any one time. So think of this maybe as the camera. So the camera is going to start out looking at just this area, okay? But the actual level or frame itself is bigger than that. Well, in this case, I want them to both be the same size. So I want to stretch out the camera view and how big that is. To do that, I'm going to go here to the left where it says Workspace Toolbar. I'm going to click on Application 1. That's my game. And then down here, a bunch of properties appear. And these are great. There's all sorts of different properties that you can change and use and select. But I'm going to go here to the second button in this menu here, and it's called the window button. So I'll click on that, and notice it says window size 640 by 480. So that's this camera basically, or window, and I want to make that 800. So I just clicked on it, and I'll go in and type 800 by 600, hit enter, and now you can see it looks like there's just the one rectangle. There's actually 2, but it's going to capture the entire frame and make it visible to the gamer. To start changing what this level actually looks like, there's a few things we could do, but the simplest, quickest way to change what it looks like is to add a color. And you might be tempted to just go down here and select a color from this RGB, red, green, blue. You can click on that and choose a color. But notice that's not really the color that we want. This is the border color. And we don't really want or need a border color in this case. The reason that says border color is because we have selected application, the entire game. Instead, we should go down here and select level 1. That's what we really are trying to work on. Okay, so I selected level 1, and for some reason it jumped me out to the storyboard editor. So I'm going to double click on level 2 to get back there. With level 1 selected, I can go and notice now it says background color, RGB. I'll click and I can pick any of these standard colors, or I can click other and get even more colors. I'm going to just choose a kind of greenish color, greenish blue. So there's my nice level 1 so far. That's how it looks. Next up, I would like to add a character for player 1 to control. Now, pretty much whenever you want to add something to your Fusion levels, there's a couple of ways you can do that, but one of the easiest is just to double click. So I can double click to add, in this case, what would be an active object. And I could do that. I could double click on that and then click on the screen. There's my active object. That could be controlled by the game player, by player 1. But the downside to doing this is it's just a diamond shape, right? And I would have to double click on that to open it up and do some artwork. Okay, so I could design a character here. This is when the character is facing the right. After I've done that, I need to design what it looks like if it's facing left, facing up, facing down, and that's just if it's stopped. Then I could create one for when it's walking, running, all of these things, right? So that's a lot of work, and that's beyond the scope of this video. So I'm going to cancel out of that. And for now, I'm just going to click and drag and drop that active object off screen so it won't be seen by the game player. I could even delete it, but I want to save it in case I need it later. So I'll just put it off screen there. So what I'm saying is I'm feeling kind of lazy and I don't want to create a character from scratch right now. Instead, I want to use one from the Clickteam Fusion library. Now, earlier down here, there was something that said library, okay? And I double clicked on it and I closed it out and it looks like it's gone. So I want you to see how to get that back. If you ever lose your library, what you can do is you go up here and click on View. And the library is kind of important because it's full of characters that are pre-made, so you don't have to make all the artwork yourself. So that's why it's important for you to know how to get this back. The way you would get it back is to go up to the top, click on View, and look for the toolbars area. Put your mouse on that, and then go down and choose Library Window. Now, when you do that, it may snap in place like this did, or it might just be a floating toolbar. If you click on this bar here of the floating toolbar, you click and hold and move it, notice that you get these symbols that appear, okay? These symbols give you the opportunity of docking basically this toolbar where you want it to be. So I could dock it there or there. Really the best place for it, I think, is down here. And so that's why I'm putting my mouse on that little shape. I let go, and now I've got this nice library toolbar that I can use to get images, get characters, and objects that I can put into my game. Okay, so I'm going to go down, select Local Library, and I'm going to go to the Games section. Now you can stretch this out anytime you need to if you want to be able to see it better. And I'm going to go down here to Games. I'll click the little plus sign, and you can see that there's just folder after folder of different games, graphics, characters, and things like that. I'm going to go down to Platform, and you can see that there's different platform packs. So you can just navigate through there and you can explore and see what is available. So in platform, there's a bunch. In characters, there's a bunch of different things. You've got animals, you've got myths and monsters, you've got all sorts of great characters. Now, some of these graphics may look a little outdated, a little cheesy. Some will look great. It just depends on what you're looking for. And remember, you can always just make your own. For today, though, I'm going to go to Miscellaneous, and I'm familiar with this one. It's called Spyco the Hedgehog. So I'm going to double click on that, and this gives you a whole game's worth of graphics that you can use. And here is a character named Hedgehog, I guess Spyco the Hedgehog. And now I'm going to click on Hedgehog and drag him onto the screen. So there I've got my Hedgehog, and he's ready to be controlled by player 1. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to add some ground for him to walk on. You can see that there's all sorts of different grounds, some with snow, some with water, some with just ground and grass. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, there's a couple of different versions, different styles of grass and things on top. Okay, here's some sloped ones, and then I'll also get just some plain ground. And again, there's different patterns for it, different looks. It's nice to have a variety in your game. So I'm going to put a bunch of those on there. Now I can minimize that a little bit more so that I can see my level better. Okay, this is what I have to work with. Now, one of the things I love about Clickteam Fusion is at any point in your game, you can test it out. You can run the game. So I'll just go up here to Run, click Application. Now, when you do that, it's going to go to your first frame. And remember my first frame, it's just blank. So that was a mistake. Instead of Run Application, I should go to Run Frame, That'll just play this first level. So there's my character. Now look, if I use the arrow keys on my keyboard, I can control this hedgehog. And he's already pre-designed with artwork for walking, for running, even jumping, okay? Now the downside is this is supposed to be a platform game, and platform games are supposed to have gravity, okay? This character doesn't have any gravity. So I'm gonna X out of the preview, basically, if you will, and get back to frame number 1. And I want to change some of the properties of this hedgehog. Now, I was actually lucky that there was any control already set up for this hedgehog. A lot of times, objects or characters are not set up to have any controls by default, and you have to specify those controls that you want them to have. But in this case, he came with a movement, but I want to change that movement. So I have to first make sure I've selected the hedgehog. Notice here at the left, the properties come up, and there are lots of different tabs worth of properties that I can change. One of them looks like a man that's running. This is the movement property, and I'm going to stretch that out so you can see it a little better. But by default, he has 8 directions movement. He can move any of 8 directions. Well, that's not what I want. I want it to be platform movement. Now you'll see up here at the top, there's 8 directions. That was the default. There's platform. So I'm going to switch it to that. Now, because I have Clickteam Fusion developer version, you can see there's a lot of different options here. With the free version of Clickteam Fusion, I believe there's only these up at the top. But that's okay. Don't lose heart. If you're just going to use the free version of Clickteam Fusion, these are really all you need to make the majority of games that you might want to make. I've made dozens and dozens of games using these particular movements only, and it's great. But I'm going to switch to platform. Now let's try it again. Now when I go to run frame, look, the hedgehog fell and he's gone. In fact, he's still falling. He's falling down and he's just going to keep falling into eternity unless I X out. So I'm going to save Spyco, our hero, by clicking on that X, and now he's no longer falling. Okay, so the question is, why did he fall? Well, I added platform movement. That gives you gravity, and Spyco had gravity and he was pulled down. Why wasn't he stopped by this ground? Well, the reason why is because in coding or in programming, you have to tell the computer what to do in just about every circumstance. Okay, and so we need to fix that by doing a little bit of coding. But first, I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on the ground, and I want you to see its characteristics. You'll notice that there is no option here for movement. I can't make this particular plot of ground move. Why? Because it's really just a background. But I need to make a little change to that. So having clicked on it to select, I'm going to go here. It looks like a play button. And notice it says collisions, obstacle type, none. I'm going to click on that and say this is actually an obstacle, and it's a platform obstacle. So now it will behave a little differently. Let's see what happens now if I click run. Look, it still didn't do anything. All right, but it's still important that I switched it to be an obstacle, a platform obstacle. What that does is it sets it up for success. It makes it so it's about to work. Okay, so now let's really make it work so that when the hedgehog lands on the ground, he stops. Okay, to do this, we're going to need the third button across the top. Remember, the first button takes us to the big picture view. The second button doesn't work unless you select frame 1 or frame 2. So there I am in frame 2. So I click. The third button I haven't said anything about yet, but what it does, it gets us into the coding screen, or what they call the event editor. Okay, and this is where we do something like real programming or coding. And I want you to think of this as a screen where you can set up if-then statements. Here at the left, we're going to have some if conditions. So if something happens, then I want something else to happen. It's cause and effect, if then. So let's see how this actually works. To set up a new if condition, I'm going to right click where it says new condition, and I'm going to say to myself, if, and if I were to think this through, the statement itself would be something like, if the hedgehog hits the ground, then stop. Okay, something like that. So if the hedgehog, so I'm going to right click on the hedgehog, hits the ground. Well, hits is similar to collisions. So I'm going to go to collisions. Another object? Well, yes and no. If you recall, that plot of ground, it wasn't really considered an active object. It was considered a background. So if it collides with a backdrop, then, so this is the if, now then I want to stop. The question is, I want what to stop? Do I want that diamond that's off to the side to stop? No, I want the hedgehog to stop. So you have to line it up at the intersection of the hedgehog and this if-then statement that I'm creating. I'm going to right-click in that space, and I'm going to go to stop. Now, I don't see stop there, but stop is related to moving, isn't it? So I'm going to put my mouse over movement and then choose stop. All right, let's try it out. If I go to run, frame, my hedgehog falls, but this time he lands on the platform and he stops. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So I'm going to X out of that, and this little code, this event in the event editor, has made a big effect on my game. Clicking on this second button, I can get back in and make some other edits. Okay, so next up, what I should do before I forget, I really should go in and change the rest of these objects that are here to be collisions, obstacle type, platform. So I should do that right now before I forget. And to be honest, I probably don't need to do that with these brown ones because I'm planning to just have them buried under the ground. Spiko will probably never touch them. But the ones that are green on top, I should really go in, select, and change the obstacle type to platform. So I'm just doing that now as I'm talking to you, and I think I'm ready to go now. Okay, now notice I'm just clicking and dragging to put them on the screen to order them the way I want them to look, the way I want them to be. Obviously, this is not enough ground. I need more than this, right? So what I could do is I could go in and I could click on this first plot of ground, click again, and the second time you click, it gives you these dots or handles around the perimeter of the rectangle. And now I could click on one of those and drag, and I could make that ground really long. But you saw what happened. It distorted it. I stretched it out. So I'm going to undo that with Control Z, or you can click this undo arrow. And instead of stretching it out, I can just right click on it and then choose Clone Object or Duplicate even. And there is a difference. Before I do this though, I'm going to get it right up to the left edge. You can see there's a little gap there, and it's hard for me to do that. I go too far or not far enough. So let me show you a trick. If you click on the object, you can then use the arrow keys on the keyboard to adjust it in very fine increments. So I'm almost there. Maybe two more. Okay, I am almost perfectly at the edge. I think that might be perfect. So now I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose Duplicate. Now the difference between clone and duplicate in Clickteam Fusion, duplicate means it's really the exact same object, just mirrored more than once. Okay? Clone, if you clone something, it looks identical, but each one is its own personality, its own thing. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate. I just want a bunch of things that look the same. And now I probably want 30 different columns. Okay, so I'm going to click and type 30, and I only want one row of this plot of ground. I'll click OK, and look what it did. It created 30 columns of just one thing all the way across the screen. Now I just estimated 30. That's too many, really. So I could just highlight those extras, or at least some of them, right-click, and delete. Okay? Now, if I want to add a little variety, you can see it. You can tell that this has just been copy-pasted a million times. If you want some variety, you can right-click on these other plots of ground, and you can duplicate. Maybe I'll duplicate, I don't know, maybe 3 columns and 2 rows of that. And now I'll just put those interspersed throughout the game. Does that kind of make sense? I hope that makes sense. It's just a way to provide a little bit more variety for the eye so it looks a little nicer. Okay, and you don't really even have to do this. I just want you to see kind of how I go about adding a little bit of variety while still making it interesting and fun to look at. Okay, so that's probably good enough. That's probably good for now. I'm just going to put this last one down there. I could do the same kind of thing with the ground. So give me a minute and I will duplicate this ground and add in some variety using these other patterns, and then we'll resume with the tutorial. Okay, I'm ready to resume now the tutorial. As you can see, this is not perfect, but remember, the player will only see what's inside the rectangle, so it's okay that this hangs over the edge a little bit. That's fine. Also, if I were really going to publish this game or turn it in as a project or something, I would go in and probably put more artwork down here, maybe more ground or maybe some water under here. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as is, and I'm going to put this down here for now. So now, when I run this game, let's look at how it goes. When I run frame, the hedgehog falls, drops, and lands. And look, I can control the hedgehog and take him left, take him right. I can even jump with the shift key. Now watch what happens if you tap the shift key 3 times or more on a Windows computer. It says, do you want to turn on sticky keys? And so if you want that shift button to be your jump button, you're probably going to want to go here to disable the keyboard shortcut. For now, I'm not going to do that. And you can even change what jump is. It doesn't have to be shift. Now, something I mentioned there, I said in Windows, Clickteam Fusion is by default a Windows application. And for years, that was the only option. But now they do have the option of buying a Mac version of Clickteam Fusion 2.5. It's a little different, but really not by much. It's quite similar. And so what you're seeing here would very easily translate to the Mac version if you want to buy that. And that one is not free, I don't think. If you're a school, you might want to contact Clickteam and tell them your situation and see if they can get you a copy of the Mac version for free that you could use. Okay, so jumping back into my game, what we just did, what you just saw there, the fact that that really took only a few minutes for me to set up, and if I wouldn't talk so much, it would have been even faster. I mean, this is practically a miracle of programming and coding that I'm able to create that so quickly and so easily and simply. So we should all be pretty excited about this, I think, as far as how easy and quick that was to do. Okay, so next thing I need to work on, I would say, is this. Notice what happened. My hedgehog got a little bit too far to the left, fell off the screen, and now again he's falling for eternity. What can I do to solve that problem? Well, what happened was he went too far left, there was nothing underneath him, and he just went into a free fall. So what I need to do is another bit of coding. I'm going to jump here to the event editor, new condition. This time I'm going to say if the hedgehog walks off the left side of the screen, then I want him to stop. Now in your mind, you're probably thinking about what to do. And I bet you could just figure it out yourself. You just right click on the hedgehog. So again, you say if. So if hedgehog goes off to the left side of the screen. Okay, now I don't see that listed here. It might be collisions, it might be movement, it might be position, it might be direction. So you might need to use a little bit of trial and error and search for it. And I know which one it is because I've used Clickteam Fusion for many years. It's this, position. I want to test the position of the hedgehog. So I'll click on that, and it gives me this little pop-up that shows kind of a view of my level. Okay, so this white space represents this frame or level that I'm working in. So I want to see, is the hedgehog getting to the very edge, going from in to out on the left side? And while I'm at it, I'm going to do the same thing on the right side and actually the same thing on the bottom. Okay, the top doesn't matter so much to me. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I clicked all 3 of those, click OK. So if the hedgehog is leaving the play area on the bottom left or right, then I want the hedgehog to stop. Now I could right click here and choose movement stop, but remember that's what this check mark represents. So I'm just going to click on the check mark, drag it down, and that copies it. So that's a little shortcut that is helpful to know. I need to jump back to my level. Do you remember which of these 3 buttons I should click on? It's the second one. That takes me to the frame editor. So now when I run the game, let's see what happens. Okay, when I go to the left, I'm leaving the screen on the left, and so it stops me. So coding is wonderful. It's powerful. It makes it so that you can control what happens in your game or your software. There should be nothing that can happen now that would get me past that barrier. So my game is coming along great. The only problem is it's a little bit boring, not much to do here. So let's add an enemy and let's also add a goal. What is the goal for the hedgehog? What is player 1 trying to do? So I'm going to X out of that and take us back to the game. And I'm going to head down to the library toolbar, stretch it out a little bit, and let's see if there's anything in here that could act as a goal, something for the hedgehog to collect or to get, and then also maybe an enemy. Okay, and I can see an enemy right there. There's a mosquito. I'm going to click and drag that mosquito. Now this is a giant mosquito. I'm going to drop the mosquito there on the frame, and then I'll drag him and put him where I want him to be. Next, I want there to be something for the hedgehog to collect. Maybe this 5-leaf clover, maybe this heart, and I'll just put those where I want them to be. Let's run the game and see what happens. I click run, and first of all, I notice right away that the mosquito just kind of rolls over and dies. Okay, remember, these objects that I'm using, they were created by other people, and some of these objects were fully animated like these. Some of them were partially animated. Some of them may be set up incorrectly. There's all sorts of possible issues with these pre-made graphics. So let's tackle the power-ups first. Okay, what I'd like to do is I want to make it so that if the hedgehog collides with this 5-leaf clover, then he's rewarded. His score goes up. So to do that, I need something to keep score. So I'm going to stretch this down a little bit, and I'm just going to double click on the background. This is just a blank background that I put a color onto, but I'll just double click on it, and it gives me an option to add an active object. Now remember, this is an active object. It's one that I was expected to add some art to and things like that. In this case, that's not what I want. I want something to keep score. Now this is the entire list of things I can add, different kinds of objects. If you want to focus in on a specific type of object, you can look here at the left. So here at the left, it says things like games, files, databases, control. I'm going to go to games because look, there it is, score. So I'm going to click on that, click OK, and now I get a plus sign. Anywhere I click with that plus sign, the score will appear. Right now the score is 0. While I'm at it, I'm going to add lives as well. Okay, so I'll put the lives maybe next to the score, but you can do this however you want. You can set it up however you'd like it to be. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. All right, so now I'm going to go into the event editor where I can do some simple coding, and I want to create a code that says when the hedgehog, or if the hedgehog collides with the 5-leaf clover, then give player 1 some points. So I say if in my head, if, and then I right-click on New Condition. The hedgehog collisions another object. This is going great so far. Now it wants to know what other object. What's the other object that we're testing for? And it's this one, the 5-leaf clover. I click OK, and I can see it right there. This is just like a sentence. Collision between this and this. If that happens, then what? What's the result? Well, I want to give some points. So I line it up with score, right-click, and that would make sense, wouldn't it? But it's actually wrong. So every once in a while in Clickteam Fusion, something that makes some sense is just not quite right. Instead of going here to add to the score, you go to player 1. And the reason for this is because what if you have a 2-player game? You need to work with the player that is controlling the hedgehog. So I'm going to right-click under player 1, go to score. Do I want to set the score to be a certain number? No. I want to add to whatever it already is. So add to score. Next, I can use an equation to figure out what that additional point should be. I could use cosine, sine, tangent. One of the beautiful things about Clickteam Fusion is that it's not just for people that are great at math, right? But if you are great at math, if you understand how to use these things, you can do amazing things with Clickteam Fusion. Myself, I am not that great at math, but I can still make amazing games. Okay, so instead of using these things, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to say, okay, that's worth 10 points. Simple as that. And I click OK. So now it's going to add 10 to player 1's score. Now there's something else I want to have happen. When they collide, I want the 5-leaf clover to disappear. If it doesn't, then this player could just sit on that clover and start racking up points like crazy. So I'm going to go underneath the clover, right-click, and choose Destroy. And it's going to destroy that 5-leaf clover. It might also be nice to have a sound play. So I'm going to go over here underneath the speaker symbol, right-click. Sometimes I have to right-click a couple of times to make it work. And I'll go to Samples. Samples are for sound effects. Music is for music, obviously. So I'll go to Samples, choose Play Sample. Now it is possible to download, when you get Clickteam Fusion, it is possible to download a bunch of sound effects that they have already produced. and you can just utilize those. In this case, I haven't done that yet, and so I don't have a library of sound effects to use. But that's okay. I could just jump out to the internet. There are dozens of websites out there where you can get free sound effects that you can download and use, and I could just select one of those, or I could create my own. In this case, I'm just going to cancel out. That's all right. I won't have a sound effect when they collide in this case. But now I'll just click Run, Frame. Let's try it out. There's my hedgehog. He can't leave the screen. When he jumps, let's see what happens. Jump, and he gets the clover. And notice what happened. The clover disappeared. It's destroyed. Here in the upper right, I got 10 points. That's awesome. Okay, I could do the same thing with this heart. Maybe I should move it over here to the right of this ramp, make it a little higher so he has to go off the ramp to get it, and maybe this is worth 20 points or 50 points. This is part of the game design, trying to make it fun and interesting for the player. So I'll do that, but also I need to work on this poor enemy here, this mosquito. He just rolls over and dies. So give me a second to change the heart and make it worth points, and then I'll show you how to fix the mosquito. Okay, I'm back. I have changed some things up with that heart, but now let's take a look at this mosquito. He just rolls over and dies so easily. So to do that, I'm going to double click on the mosquito, and let's take a look at what's happening. Notice that this mosquito has no stopped animation. I could tell that right away because when I looked at stopped, there is no dot next to it. So this mosquito only has disappearing animations and flying, attack, impact animations. It doesn't have a stopped animation. Well, I can fix that. I'm going to go to disappearing, and you can see you can scroll in and out with the scroll wheel. But I want to get a good look at the whole mosquito. Now I'm going to do Control A on the keyboard. I just held Control, tapped A. That's on a Windows computer. It highlighted everything. Now I'm going to do Control C to copy, and I just copied the right view for disappearing. Now I'm going to go up to stopped. Now I'm going to do Control V, and it pasted it in, and so now there is a stopped view for the mosquito. Okay. Now I could click here and do the same thing for the mosquito looking left. Okay, and I could go copy the left view if I wanted to, or I could just do Control V, paste in the right view, and then I could use this button here to flip it horizontally. So now he's facing left. Does that make sense? In this case, I think it was a little faster to just do what I did. So now that's what he looks like when he's stopped but facing left. This is what he looks like when he's stopped and facing right. And that's really all I need, I think, for this mosquito. I might want to do the same thing down here with walking, though. So I'm going to go down here and I'll put in the left view, paste, whoops, that's the right view. So I'll flip it and then go back in here, and this is the right view. I'll do walking, right view. I know a mosquito walking doesn't make a lot of sense, but walking just means moving kind of slowly. Okay, so I'm going to click OK on that. Let's try it out now. When I run the frame, the mosquito does not just simply disappear. And at this point, let's take a minute to take a step back and look at what we've done so far. I've got a hedgehog that can jump, and I did disable that sticky keys feature. I can get the 5-leaf clover, and let's see if I can get that heart going off the ramp. I got it, and notice my points are adjusting accordingly. So at this point, the game is going great. It's amazing what you can do with Clickteam Fusion, and I'm pretty happy with this. So this concludes part 1 of the Clickteam Fusion tutorial. I hope that you'll come back and watch part 2 of this tutorial to learn how to make the mosquito fly on its own, computer controlled, and how to make some consequences for when the mosquito collides with the hedgehog, right? Maybe have him lose some lives and things like that. Also in part 2, I'll show you how to make a second and third level in your game, and also how to do scrolling. You can make it so that, just like Super Mario Brothers back in the day, so that when your character gets to the edge of the screen, he doesn't just stop, but rather the camera follows him and everything scrolls. Okay, so I'll show you those things and more in part 2 of this tutorial on Clickteam Fusion. I hope you've enjoyed watching it so far, and please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel for more videos about technology for teachers and students, and watch for a new video at least every Monday.